everyone. So I've always been fascinated with marathons, probably because I had a knee injury and I can't run marathons, so I'm fascinated by those that can. In studying marathons, if you've ever looked at a long distance marathon, you'll pay attention to the behaviors. And I started paying attention to the behaviors of marathon runners. And what I noticed is when the marathon takes off, it kicks off, you see certain people that take off full speed ahead. And I go, yeah, that's who I'm betting on, I'm putting my money behind that person. And then as the marathon continues, over the long run, you see the folks that kind of took off sprinting start to fall behind. And you see those folks that were more steady start to move ahead. At the beginning of that, I'll always say, my goodness, aren't those people concerned that they're letting everyone run in front of them? Why don't they pick up the pace so that they can keep up? Don't they know they're going to lose? But what I realize is when you are steady in your approach, you don't deplete yourself of energy. You have the energy then to move on and usually conquer your competition. So as I started looking at those marathons with a different lens, I started to see that those that had a plan in place, that had purpose and had practice, tend to outlast those that just took off as soon as they could. And so that's no different than how we manage often our lives and our goals. We have something in mind that we want to do, and we take off and we go do it, and we have all this energy around it, and the minute it doesn't work out, we give up. And we feel depleted. We're depleted. We have no more energy left. And so that's why it's so important not to just have goals, but have a strategic plan in place. It's important to know where you're going. So imagine having just goals. It's not attached to a why. It's not attached to a vision. It's attached solely to getting a tactical thing done. And so as I coach my clients, I really advise them that they need a strategic plan in place. I'll give myself as an example. In 2008, I had relocated from my hometown of Chicago, Illinois to Seattle, Washington, which is about a 4.5 hour flight. So it's not close. You just can't drop in and see your friends and family. And it was during the recession in the United States. And so a lot of organizations were laying people off. And for me, that no longer had purpose. Just reorganizing the organization to be as slim and trim as possible, to be able to continue to function and impacting people's lives in a way that wasn't meaningful was no longer meaningful for me. So I had to put a plan in place. What most of my colleagues did is they became very frustrated and they just threw up their hands and they quit, and they didn't have a plan in place. So I think it's really important to have a plan in place. So my plan was that I was not going to start the new year off in that year, but I had a plan in place. And I had strategic points and things that I did. I reached out to my contacts. I told the universe what I wanted. I actually wrote down what my plan was. And I think that's really important because without a plan in place, you're just not prepared for what the world might give you. And so when I think of a plan, I have a pyramid that I help my clients with. And at that base of the pyramid is your vision. This is really what you strategically want and see for your life and your why. And then you have your goals, like how are you going to get there? And then you have your strategic plan in place. This is your long-term strategy. This is how you're going to get from A to Z. And then you have your outcomes. This is what I want this to culminate into. And so I actually when I write my plan and my goals, I assign myself on a quarterly basis grades. And people were really, really shocked at the fact that I gave myself some D's and F's. They said, what? You actually gave yourself D's and F's? Only teachers are supposed to do that. And I said, no, if you are not honest with yourself about where you are, you can't be honest with others, and you can't get to where you ultimately need to be. But what I saw over time is those areas that were D's and F's weren't attached to my values. And they weren't attached to my overall vision of how I saw myself. And that's why those areas never culminated to A's and B's. And so I knew that then those things weren't as important, and I needed to revise my strategic plan. And so I'll also take you through another option and example of when it's important to have a strategic plan. So we'll use a couple characters. One is Jill. Jill works and she is very loyal, shows up every day on time, keeps her heads down, does what she needs to do, is the organization's go-to person. People love her. They tell her how much she's loved. She just knows that when the promotion comes, it's hers. It'll be hers. She got this. Everyone loves her. She does the extra. She goes the extra mile. We have another employee, Maria, that's on her team. Maria put a plan in place. Maria told that plan to her manager. So her manager knows her plan. Her manager knows where she wants to go. Her manager helps her with her plan and puts her name in rooms where she's not in because she knows the plan. So when the promotion announcement comes out, Maria gets the promotion and Jill is just distraught. And I know you all have had these incidents or heard of these stories before, where someone has really, really worked hard, but they didn't ultimately get what they were after. And that's because you can't not only write your plan, you have to communicate your plan. Others have to know what it is you want so that they can help you accentuate and help you get to the ultimate goal. So that's why it's really important to not only have a plan, but communicate it, be honest about what you can do, what you can't do, what you're willing to do, right? Because there's some things that you're just not willing to do ethically or morally. It doesn't fit within your value system. And it's important for people to know that as well. And so when you think of large Fortune 500 organizations or billion-dollar organizations or even governmental entities, can you imagine them operating with goals only and not a strategic plan? You can't. Because a strategic plan really puts in place what you want to do. It sets the vision. It gives the why. You have to share this with your shareholders. So why do we live our lives any differently than a business will put their plan together to get shareholders excited, right? To get the community excited, to get their team members excited, to get their other leadership team members excited, and understand and knowing what they want to do. And so I also say that when you have your strategic plan in place, you are already 42% ahead of most people who have nothing. So just by having your plan in place, you're going to be 42% more successful than those that have nothing, according to Harvard. So you want to make sure that you always know where you want to go, where your vision is. Otherwise, the tide of life can take you in directions you have no business being in and you don't want to be in, and you wake up 20, 30 years later going, why am I here and how did I get here? And so it's really important to know what you are, what your goals are, where you want to go, where you want to be, write those down, have other accountability partners that can hold you accountable to those and move forward. As Audrey Hepburn famously said, nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. And you are possible, your life is possible, the dreams you want are possible, and there's nothing that you can't do. Thank you.